Silk Sonic, baby, dropping the long anticipated album, An Evening with Silk Sonic. Uh, we got Leave the Door Open back in March. So it's been an 8-month lead up to this album. Obviously, Silk Sonic, the Anderson .Paak and Bruno Mars collab. Dave, what was your just like hype level going into this?
Definitely looking forward to it tremendously. It's actually hilarious to consider this album rollout because in the meantime, they won the BET award for best group when only Leave the Door Open was out. Not even the second single Skate had come out yet, and they won a best group. Really funny. Obviously,
Amazing.
a award show such as BET Awards probably just wants people to show up and perform, so you understand why they won. But still really funny. And yeah, I mean, we just did our Anderson .Paak album rankings at youtube.com/nostalgiapod. So we've been anticipating this album and we are big fans of Anderson's. So seeing him get his first number one song with Leave the Door Open, in general, be exposed to a much wider mainstream audience is really great because he's deserving of such with his talent and musical output to this point. And of course, more Bruno Mars. It had been a long time since Bruno Mars had released an album of any kind. 24 Karat Magic was back in 2016, pre-election, Obama time. You know, it's been a minute for Bruno Mars.
Yep.
So even if this isn't a proper Bruno solo album, it's still better than nothing because it's been a long time. And Leave the Door Open was such a successful first single, critically adored in addition to being so popular that obviously the album hype was quite high. And they had originally said that this was delayed till 2022. And then next thing I know, here it is coming out right before Adele, sneaking it in there for us.
And I have to say, I was not disappointed at all. As you set the stage so wonderfully, we're big fans of both of these guys, and I think the singles, though obviously leave the door open, is the one that stands out from the three singles, Skate and Smoking Out the Window. I think they all were pretty interesting and exciting in different ways. But then I opened the album and it's an intro track and then only 8 more tracks, and we had heard
Right.
3 of them. So I was like, oh, I'm hoping these other 5 really hit because man, there's just not as much here as I was hoping to get. But I was really not disappointed at all. I loved listening to this album. I've run it through a couple of times already. Obviously, a quick listen, like I mentioned, but just a few tracks here just really, really pop off for me. What was just your general response to the first listen through?
Yeah, obviously positive. I also noted the brevity. Definitely stands out. But I think what shines through is that even with just 8 full songs and only 5 of them being new, the admiration, the tribute, the homage to 70s soul and R&B, little funk in there too, a little disco at times. This just blatant, obvious love for the past. It's just done so well, so warmly, so effectively that like you can't help but just really enjoy it. It doesn't matter that it's clearly just inspired by the past. It's totally cool because it's just done so well, and you can tell they're having a nice time doing it.
Yeah, and if you needed more evidence of the callback to the past, like funk, R&B, soul era, you have Bootsy Collins narrating throughout it. So I mean, you got a guy who was working closely with like the James Brown and other people who are like the creators of that movement and the drivers of that movement back in the time as an anchor. But oh man, like this thing it just is a pleasure to listen to from start to finish. I just want to call out one track because I've been so excited to talk about this track all day. Track 4, After Last Night with Thundercat and Bootsy Collins, man.
Yeah.
That's the one for me off this. I've played that back probably like 10 times already. Just the funky sound of it, the build up and the chorus is just so fun, and it really brings in that it brings in everything that they do together, or that each of them do well individually and meshes it together so well. Like Bruno just crooning on it, Anderson bringing like the funky drums, a couple of his interesting vocal lyrics to this, and then it just flows together so well. Just a really, really fun track to listen to. What was that one of your standouts as well?
For sure. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
funny to see Thundercat and Bootsy Collins on a song together. Like you said, Bootsy Collins, Parliament, Thundercat, it's kind of the descendant of Bootsy
Yep.
Collins in terms of bass players, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Uh, but yeah, I mean, Pac and Bruno harmonize tremendously on After Last Night.
Mhm.
Pac in particular, I feel like that pre-chorus is super fun. The gushy gushy part,
Yep.
gushy goo, whatever he says. Uh, yeah, so that one's tremendous. Um, and yeah, that's also I think a really important song because that's one of the best vocal performances from Anderson standing out on
Mhm.
his own. I think if I have a light criticism, it's not so much a criticism as it is just preference. I would have loved Anderson to get to show out a little bit more on this because
Mm.
Bruno can show off so easily with his
So easily.
vocals because of his vocal strength, right? And we're everyone's so used to listening to Bruno Mars, we know what it sounds like. It stands out, it pops. And
Yeah.
Anderson, really talented, multifaceted artist, but as we said, not as mainstream to this point. He doesn't quite get to let loose and show all his sides as much as say he does on his own music. Obviously, he's fitting into the theme they're doing here. He's fitting into the genre they're making. So I
Mhm.
totally get it. But it was cool to hear Anderson's personality really come out at times on like After Last Night or Fly As Me, where he's actually doing a bit
Yeah.
of rapping in that second verse. I really like those moments because they are a little bit brief. Usually Anderson's kind of supporting Bruno, whether it's going back and forth with him, harmonizing with him. So when you do get like the true like Anderson brilliance that is familiar to people that like his other music, I really like those moments.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, if you want to know our admiration for Anderson, like Dave mentioned, we did a whole album ranking, so go check that out, and you can hear more of our opinion on him. But I completely agree that having more standout moments for Anderson could have been a good thing. But to your point with Bruno, even on the song After Last Night, when he comes in talking about like the cars or whatever, like near the second half of the song, and he just kind of like pulls solo from their harmony, it's just such a smooth moment. And then you're just like, man, we need more Bruno Mars music. We need another solo album. Just give it to us, man. We need it at this point. 5 years is too long.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's been a minute. Uh, the Smoking Out the Window, which was the third single technically, but only came out like a week and a half ago. I like that song a lot. I think Anderson's
Mhm.
awesome on that. The music video though is really funny to me because if you've watched a Bruno Mars music video before, you know that uh, the director of photography goes to great lengths with perspective and angles to hide Bruno Mars's height. Obviously, famously, not a tall man. And I just love how they always do it, whether it's Bruno being much closer to the camera than the people in the back. They always make sure that it's not obvious that Bruno's short. I love that shit.
Yeah, no, it is funny to like see how they hide it, but they always do a good job with it. Um, what other songs stood out to you? What else did you like?
Yeah. So funny enough, I actually like Skate more than Leave the Door Open. I know that's not a
Really?
popular take.
Wow.
I just think it's like it is more upbeat, fun song.
Yeah.
Obviously, Leave the Door Open. I understand why that wows people more. So that and Put on a Smile, like those more ballady songs, not the
Mhm.
ones I like to visit quite as much. Uh, but I feel like basically every other song on the album is really fun, really up tempo, and
Yeah.
you like to hear that energy. I think maybe the song that might perhaps grate people a little bit would be 777.
Mhm.
Just like that casino trip lyrics. It's really party atmosphere. But the hooks, that's probably one of the weaker hooks a
Mhm.
little bit. The let the 777 let's go part. But still think the song's pretty fun. But I quite liked Fly As Me. The bass, the drums on that, the
Yeah.
chorus, Pack rapping, as I said. Notably credited as writers on that, James Fauntleroy and Big Sean. As
Mm.
of right now, it's not listed, but I wonder if they interpolated a Big Sean song because Fauntleroy obviously has worked with Big Sean before. As of right now, I can't find that information, so maybe Sean and James Fauntleroy helped on that song. That'd be interesting.
Yeah, definitely an interesting no, I hadn't noticed that Big Sean was credited on that, but really interesting. I also noticed that Ray Charles Or is this Ray Charles McCullough, not actual Ray Charles? I can't tell here. Yeah, no, it's not actual Ray Charles. Different.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, it would have been an interpolation
yeah.
if it was him, obviously.
Um, yeah, I agree. I think that whole run, leave the door open through smoking out the window,
Yeah,
really is just the meat and potatoes of the album, just
I agree.
undeniable. A skate is great. I like 777. I like
Mhm.
the guitar sound a lot, and I think Blast Off is a really smooth, nice
Yeah,
wrap up to the album. So
guitar is good on that one too.
we're only getting really 8 tracks. I mean, maybe only have one that put
Mhm.
on a smile that I didn't like love, but I was like, okay, it sounds fine. Bruno sounds good on this.
Right, right.
Is pretty impressive. So good,
Yeah,
really good shit.
yeah. I noticed this album was released on both Aftermath and Atlantic, so it's on both Anderson and Bruno's respective deals. It wasn't just listed as one of them. It's truly a collab album, and I can't imagine Silk Sonic as an entity exists beyond the forthcoming tour. Like I can't imagine they make music again, uh, especially in this genre for quite a long time.
Hmm.
Because again, the next Bruno album needs to come out. Anderson needs to capitalize on this profile with his own solo work. So it's going to be a while before we get more Silk Sonic. But for a tight album, with a lot of hype leading into it, it's just a great success, really fun. And of course, we'll be hearing these songs for a long time. 2 Grammys from now is when this will be up for the big awards. So it'll be around a while, which is great.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I just like the idea of this propelling into a new Bruno album because we've gotten a lot of Anderson in the last couple of years, and
Mm,
uh, again, if you go back to our rankings, we feel like it hasn't been always his top tier stuff. Hard to reach some of his highs from earlier in his career at points, but just getting Bruno back, getting him in this like mold where he's just crooning and smooth and having fun, just nothing better than that. So really excited for what's next for him and for Anderson. But this album did not disappoint. Check it out, and also go to our Nowstalgia Best of 2021 on Spotify playlist. We're gonna have probably a Silk Sonic song or two. I think we already have "Leave the
yeah.
Door Open" on there.